make sure we have enough time for him. I will kind of go through these other topics, but I didn't want to leave this one just dangling because a lot of the stuff that you're going to see from what Ayden talks about and shows you in the demo is very cool. It's predicated on being able to take some of the data that you currently have, be able to create some, use some models to be able to get some insight from that data, and then be able to create some analytics off of that. The one thing, again, we started this conversation last time during our data architecture conversations. The one thing I did want to, again, stress here is the importance of data readiness when you get into DSML AI and all those things, and Gen AI. And the reason for that is because if that data is not there, then it doesn't matter what you're trying to show. And if the readiness is not there, then everything else from there is just going to fall apart. We've seen it time and time again. I always use the analogy. I think it fits really well here. When so many of you guys started getting into self-service years and years and years ago, for IBI people, if you were back in those days, Infosys came out, was a great tool for you to hook either you or your clients up to the data with a tool where they can click and drag and create their own reports. Everybody was very excited about that, giving that to their clients, and then found out a lot of times it was more trouble than it was worth because the data had not been prepped and was not ready for that. If the data is prepped and ready for that, it was outstanding, solved so many problems, took a lot of work off the people who were creating all these one-off reports for them. But that same analogy still fits today. If you are digging into AI, creating models from data, if you're looking at Gen AI, enabling yourself there, the data part of that is just as important as anything you do, because without it, it's the same adage that's always been there: garbage in, garbage out. Does create hallucinations. That's something that I know has come with the new Gen AI. That's a term that you hear a lot of, hallucinations, and a lot of that comes from just not having the data in the shape it needs to be in. Bias as well. So being able to organize your data to be able to have the quality it needs is very, very important. And again, Ayden's going to show you some really cool stuff. If that data is not in the right format and the right quality, none of that stuff is going to matter. You may be able to create some cool reports, but it's not going to make an impact on your business. Things as simple as, like, if you have certain status codes within your business and the quality is not there to where they're all the same, you may have one that's representing a couple different ones. It doesn't have a way to really truly track and model based upon that one entity. So there's lots of things that comes into. We won't go into all those on this, but we're stressing again the importance of that. The executive trust gap. This is I think I've shared this before. 62% of executives trust at least one KPI monthly. That's a big deal. I mean, again, and if it's the day's not there, that number is going to get much larger. So being able to do that from just an analytics standpoint, but on the AI side of things, is increasingly important, because AI covers so much more than what you have been doing traditionally, and it's just going to make that balloon. The other thing that comes into play in this is legal and brand risk. One of the things that we've seen is sharing. You have to control the type of data you want to share with AI models, and especially when you get into Gen AI. And the one of the things I always use is, salespeople who are looking at putting together a proposal for a client. It's really easy to take some numbers and things that you want to be able to do, throw it into, a Gen AI tool, Copilot, ChatGPT, or whatever, and then get some nice reports out of that, or a nice document for a proposal for that. The problem becomes now all that data that you put in there is now a part of that large language model, that system, and now it's not just your data anymore. Again, I don't typically think that means that somebody can go out and say, give me the data for this from this person, but it is now part of the ecosystem there. And so protecting that and making sure that you're doing the things that you need to make sure that your data stays in-house, especially the things that are important to you that you want to keep, is something that has to be covered and looked at. It doesn't mean that you restrict. It doesn't mean that you keep your people from using the tools unless you aren't able to control that. But it does mean that that's something that needs to be addressed, and there are lots of ways to be able to address that. But again, that's something that we do see that we want to make sure that we bring up. And of course, bias training sets is a huge deal and has been for a while. The other thing from a cost perspective is clouds. I think as this data continues to grow and you continue to store data about some things you're doing with these AI models, that can truly add up, and you can see a huge egress in the amount of data that you're consuming and keeping and storing, and that can certainly become an issue that can cause unexpected costs for your business. So something you want to keep in mind, and that is some of the main areas. There's probably 100 more reasons, but these are some of the main areas that we have seen. I did have a quick poll question. Let me see. Oops. If I can bring this out. Here we go. All right. Hopefully everybody can see the poll questions. Dax or Ayden, let me know if I don't know if you guys as panelists can see or not, but let me know if we can't. We got people
Looks
inputting.
good.
Okay. So poll
All
question
good.
number one, AI ready is your data. And I think you can see here rock solid needs cleanup, mostly ad hoc, or we don't know. I'll give everybody just another minute or two, and then we'll close this one out. Still see a few people putting in. All right, so let's close this one down and see what we got. Hit share results here. I think everybody can see this. Hopefully, everybody can see the results of this. I will be honest with you, I'm not surprised by this one. Again, this is still, although AI and some of these things have been around for a DSML is not new. I think from the data side of things, this is still something that is evolving. So I think there's very few people we talk to as well that says, we're rock solid, we're good to go. I think people are getting closer to there, and I'm glad to see that 35% are looking at needs cleanup, mostly ad hoc. Still get a lot who are still just trying to figure this out. So we don't know. And again, I think that would help a lot of you guys who are there in this understand that you're probably not alone. If you don't know, this is still a journey for most people that we're talking to. Let me make this big again. Well, thanks for everybody's feedback. 5-point data prep checklist. I will say this is a very small list. There is literally, I won't say limitless, but there's tons of things. This is going to be what's most relevant for you. I will say these are the things that we see when we talk to clients and some of the assessments that we're doing with clients. That are the top ones that show up. Source lineage, and again, I'm not going into these in details, but you can kind of see there's synonym versus line, making sure you're getting the right, defining the things right within WebFOCUS and your tools that you're actually using to create the models from. The freshness or latency of the data that you're using to do these things makes a big difference, and depending on the type of information you're trying to run some of these models off of. Joint integrity, again, has been a deal for analytics for years, but continues to balloon as we get into more of these data sets that are now working together. We talked about PI and masking. I won't go back into that again. Again, something that we continue to hear, and duplicate and drift. Just being able to have secure data sets that do not have duplicates in there, which will make your results off, and drift of the data again. So you're getting the right things in the right models that you need to get in there. So those are the top things. I will tell you this, every client we talk to has different things. We usually see most clients that we do these assessments with, we usually see 2 or 3 of these probably as their top as well, but they're always going to have their specific things. So I do say, again, we'll talk a little bit about how we're working with clients to capture this stuff later on. But I think this type of thing is very important for you to have a checklist of things that you're most worried about within your data. What happens if you skipped it? Well, again, kind of the flip side of all the things we started talking about, model drift, your accuracy for your models is going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. And you can see that usually within 90 days. That causes mistrust from your users, whether it's dashboards, whether it's just reports, whether applications you have on the analytics side. Definitely, if people don't see accuracy in it, they immediately start mistrusting what you're giving them in the first place. We talked about cloud overrun again, having big jumps inside of your cost for your cloud storage for that can be a huge deal. We talked about regulatory surprise as well. Again, that is, again, a huge deal. When we talked about the masking and those things, where we kind of see that come up and hear clients talk about that sometimes too often is when they have an audit. Somebody's coming in and audit the data, and they're the ones who find that the data is leaving the building and leaving their domain. And that's where the concerns get brought up. And of course, none of us want to have to get into those things. Hopefully internal audits find those first, but certainly that's something that we all want to avoid. And of course, loss momentum. I want to stress, again, that's the whole reason why we're doing this. AI, DSML, all the Gen AI, these things are very important to the future of any business that's out there that wants to work and compete. So making sure you're doing it and doing it right is essential to making sure that you can continue to enable your people to do it. So